Welcome to the Innovation in Higher Education podcast, where we share the diverse views and perspectives of experts in higher education, innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship from all around the world on topics related to the future of higher education and the future of work, in an engaging, fresh, friendly, and very human format. Let's get started. Welcome to a new episode of the Innovation in Higher Education podcast. My name is Viviana Rojas, and I am the Director of Digital Mente. The topic of today are the challenges of Peruvian higher education, with a special focus on the challenges for quality assurance in Peruvian higher education. I have to warn you that this is a broad and deep topic and most likely would take a whole podcast season, but we'll try to do our best to cover it in one episode only. And for this, we are here with Alejandra Valverde. Ale is the Public University's Budgeting Coordinator at the Peruvian Ministry of Education. She specializes in managing all the budget of public universities in Peru. And she'll give us an overview from her experience as a woman working in the public sector of the Peruvian government. So, welcome, Ale. How are you? It's nice to have you here.
Hey, Viviana. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to share what I have learned these years working at MINEDU.
How many years do you have working at the Ministry of Education in Peru?
3 years already.
3?
3 years already, yes.
Okay.
And actually, well, as you know, before that I was in SUNEDU, so it's like 4 years working in this topic.
Okay, so 4 years. So for the listeners that are not very familiar on how Peruvian higher education works, maybe you can explain a bit better.
Yeah. Well, yes, we have 3 organisms. We have MINEDU. MINEDU is in charge of promoting the education policy, like in all the 3 levels. And SUNEDU, the superintendency, is in charge of granting the quality of the services at the university level. And SINEACE is another institution that is in charge of granting that the quality of the persons involved in providing the service in universities and institutes has the capacities and capabilities that are adequate to provide the service. So we have
so there are 3 bodies.
Entities, yes.
Okay, and you are at the moment in MINEDU, but you were formerly working in SUNEDU, which covers especially the quality aspects of higher education institutions, right?
Yes, it was in 2018, and I started in MINEDU in 2020 after having a year in the Ministry of Economy.
Okay. So maybe, so to start this interview, let's talk a bit about your whole experience working in the government sector in the higher education scene in Peru. Like, what is the main idea or the first idea that would come to your mind if I ask you to describe how is it working in higher education in Peru in the government?
Yeah. Okay. I think education is always a matter of access to human rights. I mean, before working in higher education, I was working in the Ministry of Labor. And in the Ministry of Labor, we were focused in thinking why people is having these issues about unemployment inadequacy. This person that is, for example, has studied a university career, but is working in a service position that is not required of their education, So we always wonder what the problem was, and we had different set of services to make easier for a person to insert in the labor world. However, it didn't work. So I always have this question in my mind: what's happening with education?
Yeah.
So afterwards, when I was invited to work in SUNEDU, I got to know how universities work, what universities should provide. And it's really particular how it works in Peru. In Peru, universities, since the 1993 Constitution, they are autonomous, which means that the universities decide how are they organized, how they manage their resources, and how they design what is going to be taught to students in each of the programs. So For example, you can have one university that is offering administration, and another university that is offering the same program, but these programs are not the same.
Yes, there's not a standard, right? There's not a standard quality.
Yes. It means that each of their professionals are going to be different. And however, that it's not the problem. The problem is that how the programs, how the careers are designed does not respond to what the labor work needs. So I remember you were talking some days before about the future of work. That's not a discussion here.
Yeah.
So it is a problem, actually, like how it is designed. And we always wonder in SUNEDU, and afterwards I keep having the same question in my head. How we should provide the service in order to be actually life-changing in a good manner for all these students. Are we making their lives better? Are we making the society better? Are we making the quality of the service we are offering is actually like having an impact in how Peru is working? Is it functioning? So I think that's the main discussion, like in higher education in Peru. And of course, it shouldn't. I mean, we cannot discuss that without problematizing the fact that basic education is actually not of the quality it should be.
Yes.
Students that finish school are not prepared to transit to higher education, not the professional or the technical education. So. And it's clear. I mean, you have a high number of people that is applying for universities are not getting not only a vacancy, but they are not getting the score needed to fight for a vacancy.
Yeah, because I would say as well, education in Peru is a systemic issue, right? Like the lack of quality and the lack of quality standards in education is not only correspondent to higher education, but it drags from elementary education as well. And like, it's a problem that if it's not solved from the baseline, like just the it's going to break, like it's like a card castle kind of thing. So I think this discussion of like how to solve the quality problem needs to be taken from the baseline, and then there needs to be an integration and collaboration between not only the part of the ministry that sees higher education, but also the part that sees elementary education and so on. But from your perspective and your experience, do you see that this collaboration happens, or how do you think? Or can you talk about this, or you're going to get fired from here?
No, I can. Actually, last year, when Castillo was president, he promised this free entry, Ingresa Libre.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And that was this kind of policy that made that every single student finishing school was able to go to universities, public or private, without exams.
Yeah.
For us in the ministry, it was really like a challenge to think if that was actually solving a problem. The problem he was assessing was that there was so many barriers to students to go to university. So it will be easier and more accessible if they don't have to make an exam. Yeah, well, that's not the problem. The whole public education, for example, we have only like 60 or to 70,000 vacancies, and we have over 120 students apply. So it is not possible for us to attend all the demand we have in the system. That for starters. Secondly, we don't have a study that actually tell us which are the programs where we need more professionals.
Yeah.
So as we don't know that, we cannot actually have a policy of and like increasing the capacity of the system, because we maybe would be creating a problem of oversupply, which will be also a higher rating unemployment. So we raised a lot of questions. One of them was also like, are these students going from basic school prepared to go to universities? The last time we have, how you say this, exam for students that were finishing their education was like
admission exam, you mean? Or what?
Yes, no. The one to finish school, so you can know if students acquire the competencies they need.
Yes, okay.
It was like 2017.
Okay.
And the exam, of course, as education is not standardized, the exam had like these results that were impossible to put like in a cell and say like, okay, these are good, these are not good, because as you will have different products because you have different processes. So
of course. And this is for basic, for elementary education. We're not talking about higher education, right? This is for elementary education.
Yes. So it was really hard. So we started thinking that, okay, we have to make this pre-university education. We have to create a service so we can prepare the students to go to higher education. And it was like, so why would you do that? Why would you do that? That is a short-time solution. You have to change what is being provided in the basic education. That's the problem. And as you asked, the question you made, it didn't happen.
Okay.
It didn't happen. Government in the last years have been focusing these quick wins instead of facing the big problems.
So, which also I think is one of the main problems of public management in in Peru. Like following the quick wins, following the goals as they say, no. And at the end, especially in these last years, I think it has been like just a fight of political power, right? Like you try to make the quick wins to get more political power so that people say or see that, you're making a good job, but actually you're not. And you're just perpetuating the lack of quality.
Yeah, maybe the saddest part is that, as we were discussing before we started this conversation, we have the information. We, the technical body, we know. Another thing we knew, for example, is that, and we are killing myths here about education. We always, it's common knowledge that we have that, for example, it will be easier for a person to go to the closest university they have. For example, if I live in Puebla Libre, which is a district, I'll go to Catholic University, or I would go to Ruiz de Montoya, or I would go to San Marcos because they're closer to me. Data shows that it doesn't work that way. Students go to the universities that have the broader supply or variety or programs. So actually, you see, the data show you that students are looking for the career they want instead the easier way to study. So in that way, for example, it's another problem to think that the bigger universities in Peru have a wide variety of programs. For example, San Marcos, UNSA, USAC, which is the university in Cusco. Stop counting.
Yeah.
Those are the universities.
From the public ones, yes.
Yes. That has, for example, medicine, literature, accounting, administration, political science. They have the whole variety. And it's really interesting because, for example, National University of Callao, which is really close to Lima, does not have one student in 2019 that was from KL
Yes.
admitted.
I think I remember you mentioned that data to me, and I was like, "What? There's no one from
Yeah.
Callao in the University of Callao."
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and in San Marcos, the admitted students in 2019 were like 60% were from abroad, Lima.
Yes. From
So
outside
yeah, you
Lima,
have,
from the provinces. Yeah.
yes, yes. And also that's important to protect, for example, the choice of students to study what they want to study. And, that decision-making process should also be accompanied by the state by providing them information about how the labor market works, which are the positions you can have if you are studying the term program, you know? So all that information is there and it's not being used. And it's really, it's something that really worries, for example, my team and I. Something that we see every day, and it's like, what should we do?
Yeah, but for example, this don't you think that this is also like, let's take the example of San Marcos. Now, you said that most of the students from San Marcos from a certain period of time were from outside Lima, from the provinces, not from Lima, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think this is also a problem of the centralization of the country itself? Because like the perception, I have no data on that because I haven't researched on that lately, but the perception that one has from the side of business, from the side of the work market and the labor market, is that yeah, everything happens in Lima. When you're outside Lima, it's kind of difficult if you want to actually have like a high-paying job in a high-paying company, in a high-quality company, to get that, because there's not much outside Lima. And I think that's a perception students have too. What would you say, like, or what does the data show about that?
Actually, to explain that, it's not a data matter; it's a management matter.
Okay.
Universities are autonomous. You, as a state, cannot decide what should happen to the university and how much they should grow. So it's some like you have to provide the university with the technical assistance and the resources so they decide their path to grow. It's like, for example, you remember you have been also had in Finland this University of Laponia. For example, University of Laponia is not a really old university, but they have only programs related to what is produced in Laponia. You know, you have these fishery careers, these health related to specific things, you know. So they have created, they are not a big university. They don't have to be a big university. They are universities that respond to the needs of their
the community and the environment. Yes.
That's what is needed from a university. Or, for example, you remember campus in Kumpula in Helsinki, for example. You have this university that is, because they were in the forest, it's a university focused in careers related to the forest, you know. So that's what is needed from a university. It's not that they have to grow every single university as the same. We don't need a standardized, that's my opinion, a standardized supply, but we need a supply that is important, that is relevant, that is useful
to the community and the environment. Yes, I agree, but as I would go back to the point of opportunities, work opportunities, like how many actual job opportunities are in the communities that are not from the capital? Is it like when you see the economy charts as well, like the at least the imbalance, especially in companies, like in corporates, is very it's huge from outside Lima.
Yeah, in terms of the work of in the labor market, yes, but it's not real like that. For example, if you see there is a page, this institutional page, is Ponte en Carrera, something like a start.
Yes, Ponte en Carrera. Yeah, like start your career, startyourcareer.com.
Yeah, something like that.
.te, yeah.
Yeah, for example, that shows you that mining engineers
Mhm,
are like the highest, or geologists are the
mhm,
highest paid professionals in the country.
mhm,
So those work positions are not in Lima.
mhm.
So you have to see for those things. For example, data shows you different things. I mean,
Yes, true.
you are not needed like in the capital for every single situation, but there are some careers that of course are demanded in Lima. For example, I don't know, lawyers,
Mhm.
but you need a lawyer in every single city, so
Yes.
you have to create and move the market. So of course we need a smart policy in labor too. That's another ministry I will I
Yeah.
will go to later on. I will go back. Yes, there are so many things that have to be thought like in that way. It's not as
Mhm,
in higher education is really, I mean, it's really a really problematic situation. But for professional, for my professional side, for me, it's really inspiring all the things we can do if we actually focusing in providing new questions to the same problems that we have been facing like so many years. I mean, there is
mhm,
something we have been doing wrong, and there is something we can do. And of course, we have to see, we have to look at what are the little things we can start doing that will
mhm,
have a great impact later on.
mhm, mhm. You were talking at the beginning of the interview about capacity, so and skills. I assume as well, like skills from people that are taking the decisions. No, can you go deeper into that?
Of course. um, yeah, to be positive.
Mhm,
Um, for example, when I was called to work in MINEDU to
mhm.
create this universities coordination, because the ministry didn't have this kind of relation with universities before.
Okay.
Um, my experience in Sonedo showed me that there is some kind of gap
Mhm,
between evaluating universities so they can have this institutional license and what happens when they jump into be a licensed university and there was no service. I mean, here
mhm,
you have Sonedo and Minedo, and then you didn't have a service or something that was like helping them to maintain this new quality.
mhm,
So, uh, so in how Peruvian state is designed, budgeting is super important because
mhm,
so you can have enough resources to function. You have to be really aware of what you need years before. For example, you have to know, what do I want to do this year, or how many years will take me to have this stadium, for example, or this
mhm,
hospital, or these rooms, I don't know,
mhm,
classrooms. You have to see very much forward, so you can make the budget you need for a year.
mhm,
So these persons in universities, the budgeting officers, had to know everything that was happening to the university. They have to be aware of everything that was happening legally. If they
mhm,
had another law, if they have another thing to follow in contracting teachers, for example, or what does research needs. It's super complicated. So I decided to focus in these particular professional profiles. I
mhm,
decided, so I have to know them. Just I think I didn't say this before, but there's 52 public universities in Peru. So I had to get to know without moving from Lima because I started in a pandemic context.
mhm,
I had to know who these people was, and I had to get in contact with them and working with them in building these skills and capacities so they
mhm,
um, get this assurance that they were the ones deciding and asking the right questions to the authorities about what the university needed,
mhm,
and to know to whom they have to talk about this, with
mhm,
whom they have to fight for this, So it is really important because universities, as they are autonomous, they are as powerful as ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why
Yeah.
it's amazing. For example, just yesterday, they have MINEDU was taking too long to send a document to the Ministry of Economy about
Mm-hmm.
how they would use the resources coming from mining and petroleum extraction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told them, like, why don't you send it directly? And they have. And the Ministry of Economy has answered them. So
Mm-hmm.
we have been working, we have been working 2 or 3 years completely. So the universities will have this role. So in terms of skills, you need, you have the technical skills. So you learn them. You have the legal frameworks. You have everything that tells you how to do things. But there is some gap, additional gap, that is referred to how driven you are capable of being in the system.
Yes.
How you understand how the management system works in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that every single institution needs. I mean, you have to know what is your place and what is your power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think universities now have this very like in their way of working.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that my team and I were working in, because for us it was crucial. And for example, that is something that you asked me also before. That is why I am worried about what's happening with the superintendency.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I am confident that the universities know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Universities know how to manage their quality in a way that they don't see this as an opportunity to go bad, no, to be a bad service and provide something that is less good. I think this is a situation where they are all concerned, because there was also another way of working, this licensing thing. This licensing thing is a regulatory, but also it works like an incentive.
Mm-hmm.
So they have, but I received, for example, these messages telling me that what would I do if I have done everything to receive this program licensing of medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and now I won't receive it. I won't have it. People won't know that my service is as good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think these skills and these capabilities, when you actually give the autonomy a complete and whole new meaning for them, and you also reassure their role in their universities, it changes how the system works.
Can you you mentioned this problem of the quality assurance and the problem with the licensing of programs that now has kind of been taken down from the parliament side. Can you go a bit deeper into it and explain it a bit, because most of the people here in Europe most likely don't know what's happening in that realm.
Yeah, well,
so give a bit of context and like some shades.
yeah. The university reform in Peru started in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
In that matter, it was created the SUNEDU, the superintendency, that aim to license institutionally universities. They had these 8 basic quality conditions that had different indicators the university has to comply, so they receive this license. The license is what allow a university to provide a service. When you don't have it, you cannot have admissions, so you cannot have, basically you cannot work.
You're gonna
So
you're gonna function as a university if you are not licensed.
Yes. In 2019, the SUNEDU created a new procedure that was the licensing of prioritized programs.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was medicine, because
Mm-hmm.
the program of medicine was, and it was a pandemic context, pre-pandemic context. So it was like really important to have universities that has medicine to have higher standards. So they're creating another set of indicators and another set of basic quality conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of universities that have already received this license, and others that have been denied.
Mm-hmm.
However, last year it was approved this 31520 law.
Mm-hmm.
This law was very, very polemic, and it was like in all the media. And actually, it got this name that it was the university autonomy law.
Mm-hmm.
Universities, as I already told you, was like they were autonomous from the Constitution in 1983. So
Mm-hmm.
what this law made was that it erased this part where SUNEDU can license programs.
Mm-hmm.
So all the process of licensing is now unapplicable.
Mm-hmm.
Universities that were already evaluated that have moved forward and was like, I don't know, 50 or 60 or 70% in their advance of licensing won't receive it. So it's really a problem because not only because, I mean, we won't know how those programs are, but
Mm-hmm.
students won't know. They would not know what are they applying to.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if we just look at the public universities, we only have two that have the license, and one is in Lima, and the other is in Moquegua. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the only universities that will have the quality granted. So that's a real problem. No? There was also the licensing of education program that was also approved. There was
Mm-hmm.
no university that passed the process, but it was prepared already. And in that context, what does happen is that CINEACE and his accreditation program, service, is now compulsory for universities. But it's completely different to what is the licensing. So yeah, we have that scenario now.
And what I have to ask, because this is a very complex situation, so in your opinion, what are the solution pathways for this? Like to solve the accreditation and quality problem, to solve, well, I cannot mention only one problem
Yeah.
because there are a lot of problems, but
Yeah.
what are the pathways of
Actually,
solution?
yeah. I mean, sadly, when a law is approved like this one,
Mm-hmm.
the only way to solve it is with another law.
Mm-hmm.
So until there is no another law that give the faculties back to SUNEDU,
Mm-hmm.
it won't happen. It won't be solved, like reinstated the process. However, I think that the solution is to be upfront from the executive power, because this was a decision from the legislative power,
Mm-hmm.
I mean the Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So as executive, we can have some decisions made.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we have to talk to universities upfront and tell them, like, okay, you cannot go through the process, but it doesn't mean you have to provide a less good quality service. You can have accreditation, for example, with CINEACE, and you can show the population that you are worried and you are compromised with quality.
Mm-hmm.
We have to align with the Ministry of Economy. So the Ministry of Economy doesn't go against what we have moved forward. They have to keep on financing quality assurance processes, even if they are not compulsory. No, that's also something that is important. And also, there are another mechanisms that can be put into place. Ministry of Economy has these independent evaluations, which are it's a mechanism. It's really interesting. It's a mechanism of quality of expenditure evaluation. So it is a process where the ministry hired some other companies, because it have to be independent, to evaluate the service that the state is providing. For example, the education service, so we can know the quality of the medicine programs, for example. We can know that. So if it's a matter of knowing if the students are receiving a good quality service, we have tools. I mean, we have tools.
So what I hear is like there needs to be more integration between ministries. There needs to be more like collaborative work between ministries.
Something super easy. Something,
yes, super easy to say. Super easy to say. But so, what are the main barriers for this collaboration to happen?
We need leadership from MINEDU, and we don't have that now.
Okay. Is this because of the?
You can get me fired, but yeah, we don't have those kind of leadership.
Maybe they don't know English, so they cannot fire you.
Yeah.
And this is true, yeah. So, but with all the political tremors, with all the political earthquakes that we've been having as a country, it's kind of hard to establish a strong leadership, no? Because leadership has been changing a lot.
Yes, it does. It does. It's really complicated, and actually, it's like something also we were talking about. It's like, and I guess for pardon to everyone that is listening and feels that this is so complicated. It is really complicated. I think also people that is entering that having these power roles in the sector does not take the time to understand what is needed and what is happening. So that's another problem. I mean, higher education, but it's like a lot of things. I mean, for example, I don't know if there are people like parent, your parent, you have to respect the individuality of the other, regardless of their age, their differences, their languages, their aims. And that happened with universities. You have to be able to respect them. At the same time, you're working with them and you trust that their role is important. So, I mean, that kind of democracy, like ways of being a public servant, is what is needed when you are talking about higher education services, for example. No? So, but those things, those conversations require also some kind of tranquility, stability that we don't have right now as a system. That's why, yes.
No, continue. I was just going to say that we don't have right now, but actually we haven't, like, for a while, for some years already, we haven't had tranquility. It's not right now, like it's like 7 years, 8 years, I don't know.
Yes. But I think, and that's something that is my opinion, but I think it will happen that way, that universities are kind of standing up, kind of setting agendas, is what is actually going to save them. And save the students. No, and it's really like a nice postcard, like to think in what happened with these times of repression of students that came into Lima to protest against the government. When it's really important, like a postcard, like to understand the image of what is happening. When students went to University of San Marcos, which is a public university, the biggest one, the oldest one. When students went there to have a place to stay, and they were like protected by other students, the head of the university asked the police to take them,
Yeah.
to enter and take them. And it was
With
a
thanks.
contentious situation.
To that.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was a contentious situation that put at risk the health and integrity of students.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, well, now I think there is some judicial problems going on. But in the other hand, you have the National University of Engineering
Mm-hmm.
that also host students that were coming to protest to Lima.
Mm-hmm.
And when the police tried to enter university to take those students out, the head of the ministry, the head, sorry,
The dean
head
of
of the
the.
university, the dean, yeah, he said, "You don't enter to this university because I am an autonomous institution.
Yes.
I want to protect my students."
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing the police, the Ministry of Interior could do.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the power of universities.
Yeah.
Universities are amazingly powerful. I mean, they can do those things. So it's just a matter of showing and helping them to use their power for good.
And as well, I would say not only showing and helping them, but as well to have in the leadership positions, like people who are willing to do what's right and like for students and not, for personal interest or whatnot. Which brings me again to the problem of the accreditation and quality assurance. Because what we haven't touched here is the situation of the private universities that are actually supporting the lack of accreditation. Maybe can you give us a bit of context about that?
Yeah, well, private universities in Peru,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the biggest ones, actually, where you and I studied.
Yes.
From a time on, do not enter the discussion on any matter. They're just doing their things, moving forward, like growing, and there is nothing else that they are doing for the society. And that's something that is really preoccupying because, for example, in the new model of licensing, because there is a model that has to be applied since 2024. And the first universities that were licensed in 2017 are the ones that are going to go through the process first. Catholic University, for example. There is one basic condition that is new, that was not in the last model, that requires from universities to prove their societary role. I mean, how much impact do your existence have in society? That's another step forward. I mean, you have to show what are you providing back to society.
Exactly. The third mission, basically.
Yes, and that is something that the universities have lost. Private universities are working for a superávit. I mean, to have more money and to reinvest instead of having a more important role in society. And we are all scared.
Yes.
We are all scared what is happening in Peru, but it doesn't mean that the role of the universities, of why universities were created and why universities were born, was not to change society. That's what we hope from professionals. That's what we hope from research. That's what we hope for innovation. So yeah, it's really sad what's happening with private universities, but they are not part of the discussion anymore.
True. I do believe that they're basically, trying not to be too political or trying not to take, clear sides, because there are interests from both sides, because they're private universities and they have streams of income that come from every side, from the one and from the other. So let's talk a bit about this, the universities that are not meeting the minimum quality standards, that are the private universities that are not meeting the minimum quality standards, that actually have also political power in a way, because some of their deans and representatives are like the head of political parties in the parliament.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I have some problematic opinion about it because I think that there was a big bunch of universities that were that had the license denied, and they are probably most of them not working anymore. I mean,
private or public?
Private.
Private, okay.
Because the way to for public universities, there were 3 public universities that had their license denied, but they have this emergency plan. And there is one that has already been licensed. That was the University of Ica. And there are another 2 universities that are already being assessed by SUNEDU to receive their license because they have been working almost 3 years or 2 years towards. But then in private universities, they don't have this emergency plan. They just have to make in place this denied license protocol where they have to attend all the students that are still studying, and afterwards they have to close. I mean, they also can present again to the licensing process, but in that period of time, they cannot admit new students. So mostly it is a bad business, and those universities finally close. But there is this other group of universities that I think are the ones you were referring to. There are the universities that have a hard time like passing the licensing, but they did. So these are the universities that were really questioned in all the media, for example, and by society. But those are licensed universities and they can provide the service. So I think those universities have really improved. I mean, the because there is the licensing process has this other perk that is really important. That is, they build capacities in the process. I mean, you didn't know how to do it. Now you have a benchmark that is the licensing model. The licensing model tells you you have to follow this. So you can follow a path, which is something that didn't exist before because they were autonomous, so MINEDU didn't do anything.
Yes.
So now it is different. And I think those universities have really improved. For example, private University of the North, Universidad Privada del Norte, such a name. That university, for example, is and Technological University of Peru, UTP. Those universities are leading the innovation charts.
Okay.
Which is something that was just, Uni and PUC and Cayetano. And now they are also leading these charts. So I think it is not a bad thing that these universities exist. The private universities go to places that even public universities cannot.
Yes.
So they are important. Sadly, they have to be paid, but otherwise, I think they are important for society too. And also, it is important to think that if you are a student with good grades, you could apply for scholarships that can help you to pay for those universities too. So there are options.
But do they have like enough scholarships offer to cover the studying demand?
Yeah, actually, that's really important because also I have a discussion with the Ministry of Economy about it.
Yeah.
Scholarships are not for everyone. Scholarships are just for students that have good grades.
Yes,
they're 5% top. So for those, yeah.
Okay.
For those, they are enough. Yes.
Yes. True. Okay. Yeah, but the same. Like universities are not for everyone as well. Like not everyone should go to a university as well. This is another discussion.
Very important discussion.
Yeah.
Very important discussion. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a really important discussion. Yes. We also have this discussion where I was like, yeah, but they have to be professionals.
Not everyone has to be professional.
No. I mean, the ones that were in universities, but
Yeah.
some people ask me like, and if they want to be artists,
Yeah.
and if they want to be writers, yeah, and is that's something. So also something that I wanna talk about, that actually you were, when we were talking about these deans roles. To be a dean, or to be part of SUNEDU, or to be part of SUNEACE, you have to hold a PhD. So you have to be this kind of professional that has devoted their life to academy. You have to have this commitment with the academy. You have to be researcher, teacher, for example, to be part of this path. So those things are important, for example, and something that I'm saying that that's something that we don't see, is that the postgraduate education is not part of the service. We don't have any standards to measure if the higher, this postgraduate education is good or bad in Peru.
Okay.
We don't know. We don't have that. So, but we request that authorities have this kind of diplomas and things.
Okay.
But we don't know anything about it.
That's new for me. For example, I didn't. That's insiders. That's like, if you don't. I think one would assume that there is a measure for that. Like there's like a. That is a surprise for me. I had no idea that there was not a quality standard for postgraduate education.
No, and we don't know. We don't even know how much it costs. Because, for example, in public universities, we have these, those are called production centers. Language institutes, for example, postgraduate schools, in research centers, pre-university preparation centers. All of those are production centers. And they generate their own resources. They doesn't cost the university their resources, but they are maintained in these resources that they are receiving, that doesn't have a top. I mean, they can receive whatever money they need, and they can use that money again in the service. So we don't know anything about them.
Okay.
And it's actually, yeah.
And how, really, I have to ask then, how are titles assessed? How are the validity of titles assessed then? Like if someone that wants to be a dean comes from a PhD of the University of Pretty Flowers, I don't know, an invented university, how should how do people in the government area know that this is a valid title?
Don't cry. You just trust. I didn't have to assess that, but I think you just trust. It's really great because, for example, you also, you cannot teach in a university here if you don't have a master's.
Yeah, true.
Any kind of master.
But at least a master, like here in Europe, you need to have a PhD to be a full professor. And what I'm always telling my friends and people and my my peers here, my colleagues, is that no, in Peru you can teach with a master. I could go right now and just be a full professor, no problem. And they're like, what? How is this possible? Yeah, this is a very particular thing from Peru.
Yeah, in here it does. It makes sense.
Yes, of course. No, of course.
How are you gonna demand it? It was also crazy because when we were designing years ago an intervention to improve the service, I had these colleagues that were like, we have to give extra points to the universities that have students that come from top universities of the world. The 100 QS world, I don't know what
rankings, yes.
As a friend, where is your degree from?
Yeah.
Your degree, you that can speak English fluently, you that have traveled the world. That's not a reality. We're living in the interior Peru. So yeah, it's like, for example, we should first have a, I don't know, English teaching policy for
Yes,
schools,
to begin
you
with.
know. Those kind of, yeah, because we are not thinking way forward. We are not thinking what these kids will need when
And
they go to the university. We are not thinking forward.
this way I'm surprised because I like, for example, for me to be able to teach at a university in Peru, they're asking me to like legalize my title from here. No, so I was graduated from an Erasmus Mundus program, so I have to legalize my title with SUNERU. But I thought, and as well, because I saw there was a law that said that only the titles from these the top 500 universities of the world are going to be valid, something like that. So I thought that, okay, there's a reason for that, like they have a measure, they have a standard, because if you're asking, like, if you're asking this requirement, like that only people from the only titles from the 500 top universities will be valid. Yeah, my assumption like was that there had to be a reason, like like data and like a policy out of it. But then you told me that there's no a regulation in this because someone said, okay,
Yeah, the reason was that they didn't want to think about it. No.
yeah, that's crazy. I think that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is. It is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, it's not that the QS doesn't work. I mean, it probably does, but
Yes.
have to be a little more like.
Yes, of course, of course, of course.
Yes.
As well,
Yes.
well, in this podcast, we've also talked about rankings. I haven't posted the interview yet; it will come, but we discussed specifically the topic of rankings. Like rankings cannot be seen as black or white. Not because you are in the top, not because you're in the top 3 or top 10 universities means you're good at everything, because the universities also have different kinds of offerings. So and different kinds of missions as well, like, yeah.
Yes, there is also another discussion about one of the things that is assessed in these rankings is how many students does enter, how exclusive they are. But another question that is important to be made about these matters is like, do we want exclusivity? Should we do that to make or to prevail this the higher education from being a privilege? Furthermore,
Yes, true. Yeah, it's already a privilege. I don't know. You really want to make it a higher privilege? I don't know. Well, well, definitely. As I said in the beginning, this is a topic of discussion for like a whole season. We could like make a season like budgeting, capacity building, and leadership, and so on and so forth. An episode for each area. But yeah, maybe we'll do it. I think it's time to close the interview now. But I wouldn't like to go without asking you, like, moving forward. So from your position, you're in the coordination of budget. What needs to happen? What needs to happen to start solving from the baseline all these kind of challenges we've discussed that are like from that at the beginning of the beginning of the interview, I tried to ask Alejandra, like, okay, let's talk about like points that of where challenging points. Let's try to put them together into points and categorize them. And it's like, actually they come from every part, so it's kind of difficult to do so. But I mean, we already discussed a bit about the solution pathways, but what can you do, for example, from the let's focus on the budget, no? Like how can the budget area help, or help to improve the current situation in the management of higher education in Peru?
You actually budgeting. if you do another space for budgeting, we can talk about
Yeah.
budgeting. But just to start the discussion, to finish this one, you don't desire only the things you can afford. So you won't make a budget only for the things you can afford. You have to make a budget about the things you know. So as much as public universities start welcoming complexity of their services, they start wondering, they start asking, they start demanding, the budget will show, the budget will follow. So I think that what is important is to set the space of discussion, to start asking the questions. In Peru, and I mean maybe more context of policy making, it is important to be like fighting every single time for the points to be included in the public agenda. So I think what is next for universities is like to start having another role in society, having another role in the state, and actually having this education approach to society to know what universities can be and how we all as society can participate in the process. So I think that's what actually can improve the situation. The only way, there is no easy way. I think we have to embrace the complexity of what the public universities and how the whole education, higher education like system needs. And I think there is I think the context is so difficult right now that things cannot wait anymore. Things have to start happening. So I am really optimistic about, regardless of the situation, and what can happen. And also like this, behind, at the same time as my role in MINEDU, we have created another group of research, of analysis. There is a group of professionals that we have work in MINEDU or are working in MINEDU and MEF and other ministries. But we want to give the information back to society to understand what is at stake when we are talking about higher education. So we will be sharing that information also with you.
Is this an interdisciplinary group that you have created? Or I thought it was only from MINEDU and your team, but you have included now people from other ministries too. That's super cool. That's super nice.
Yeah. Yes, we have, and it's interesting because also we are like coming from private universities and public universities. We have people that have studied in Piura, have studied in Cusco, and have studied in, I don't know, Universidad Agraria, I mean, there is so many different backgrounds. I think that enriches the discussion.
Definitely. So we'll be hearing more about that, I guess, soon.
Well,
once you get to have a meeting and make decisions, because as you said, you have to make decisions in group, and this is the
hard decisions. Democracy is a hard process.
True. Well, Ale, this has been very nice. Again, we have a lot to talk to, so most likely we'll have you again in the podcast. Maybe next time discussing the work that you're doing now in this network of universities. Hope to get to know more about your work on that realm soon. And if you have any parting words, maybe you want to invite people to follow you, or if they want to contact you, feel free.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to be contacted, that's okay too, because
No, we do. We wanna keep discussing, and we keep learning what other people has to say about public universities. In LinkedIn, we are like GAEUP, GIUEP, and in Instagram we are like de Universidades Públicas. Yeah. So
I will write it in the caption, no problem. For a non-Spanish speakers. Yes, no, looking forward. I think it's very important to start discussing the matters happening in higher education in Peru, because as we said, and we've said throughout the whole interview, it's a very complex situation that we're living in. It's a very, like, people don't believe me how complex it is, like, because it's hard to explain because it's so complex. and yeah, and I think it's important to make it more visible, especially in international environments where the profession and the like, how to say it, like the profession of being a university manager and a public policymaker is more professionalized in a way. So, like, I think as well, this nurturing ideas from both sides will be beneficial for Peru, and as well having the example of all the chaos going on in Peru will be beneficial for here, that is, things are very chilled, like here we have first world problems, so it's okay. But yeah, so I think all this exchange and visibilization is very, very important. So let's do that more often. Okay, Ale, then we'll close this interview here, and thank you for listening to the Innovation in Higher Education podcast.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Innovation in Higher Education podcast. Follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter to not miss any episode. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok as @Innovation in Higher Ed. Cheers!